welcome to episode 35 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki, and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet, and making all the things here in Northwest London. You can find me online on Instagram at hippie_Nikki. I'm Nikki Hippie on Ravelry, and if you search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab in Ravelry, you'll find our group right there. As always, all of the show notes for everything I mentioned today will be on my blog, and the links to everything I have just mentioned will be just down below. As always, I would like to kick off with a big welcome to any new viewers. Thank you so much for giving the podcast a shot. And to any returning viewers, thank you so much for coming back. I hope you have a cup of tea with you. Today's tea is in one of the spare mugs again because I have left my other mug upstairs. But this is one I found. I was tidying up and I randomly found this little Twinings gingerbread green tea. So I thought I'd brew it up and try it out. And it smells really good, and gingerbread is one of my favourite things in all the world. And I really like green tea too, but let's see if it actually goes together. I thought that was going to be horrible, and I was fully prepared to have to be really nice about it. That is gorgeous. It really does taste like gingerbread, but it has the fresh kick of the green tea. I might have to get myself a box of this. Before we dive into the podcast proper, just a couple of little announcements. The Best Year Ever Cow is still running. This is a year-long knit-along that started on the 1st of January and will be finishing on the 31st of December this year. All you have to do to qualify is knit a minimum of 4 objects that bring you joy. They don't have to be for yourself, they don't have to be for other people, just anything that has brought you real joy. Share them in the finished object thread, and I will do a random number generator in the early days of January, and I will draw winners for that. There is a pen pal element to this knit along if you want to join in. Because of moving and everything coming up very quickly, I haven't done a call for pen pals this quarter. So if you just keep an eye on the group, I am going to put a post in there about how you can get a pen pal if you would like one this last quarter of the year, because unfortunately with everything that's going on, I'm just not going to have the time to arrange it and pair everyone up, unfortunately. Secondly, the podcast is 1! I am very, very happy to say that my channel turned 1 on the 2nd of October, so earlier this week. And I did a little vlog as part of Vlogtober about it if you want to check that out. And I'm just really, really happy and very proud of what I've managed to do this last year. And there will be a giveaway to celebrate, so stay tuned. I will be letting you know what you can win and how later in the episode. But now, let's jump in to Whipped Up. So, Whipped Up at the moment. As I've said, life is a bit crazy. We are moving next weekend, so we are literally moving in about 5 days' time. And that just means everything is a little bit mad at the moment. Rich is preparing for a trip that he's taking not long after we move, so everything is very up in the air. I haven't had a chance to block my hats, and I have had this unsettled feeling because I know imminently I'm about to move to a new place, and it means that I desperately want to cast on things, but I almost don't want to because it feels like something I should do once we are settled. So at the moment, I have 3 works in progress. 2 of those are blankets. So I've got my Cozy Memories, which I am hoping to do some more work on once we're settled down. I'm going to set up my basket by the sofa with my mini skeins, my blanket. And I have the Shanghai Stripes, which I'm actively working on. I will come to why I am more actively working on that shortly. And I have my Cornish Affection, so 3 works in progress. And I desperately want to cast on my Selboom Mittens by Skein Deer. I want to cast on one of my Stranded Dye Works jumpers, and I'm just kind of champing at the bit, but I don't feel like I'm ready to dive into anything. I wish they were already started, so all I have to do is knit on them. My plan is, and I know I've been saying this for weeks, is to get some new cast-ons ready to go as soon as possible. But for the time being, I'm kind of just resigning myself to probably not casting on until we are moved. I just have this horrible feeling that things get lost and it all just feels like a little bit too much upheaval. So once we are settled, I am going to do my swatching, and I bought myself a new gauge ruler, preparing to swatch for sweaters, because Amy of Stranded has inspired me. She is incredible. If you don't watch, you should watch, because her sweater making is just incredible. And you know, whenever I see her, she's wearing one of her hand knit sweaters, and they look beautiful. And I know the reason for that is because she swatches. She makes sure that she gets the right gauge and that they're going to fit. So I'm taking a leaf out of Amy's book and I'm going to prepare. So maybe I'll treat myself to some swatching this week. First up today, I am going to talk about my Shanghai Stripes, because I have a little bit more of a deadline than I thought I had. So I've been working on it. It's not going to look any different to you. I mean, it doesn't look any different to me, and I'm the one that's got it on her lap most evenings. There we go. Oh, I'm just pulling out stitches now. Hang on, let's get some slack on the old yarn. So there we go. I have done, let's just count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've done 5 repeats and I'm on the 6th. I am going to do my darndest to get the 6th almost finished before we move. And then I'll have 2 more repeats and a border. The reason this is a bit more of a deadline is I spoke to my friend who is in China, and it transpires she is coming back for Christmas, and I was very excited to see her. However, she is coming back the day that we are probably going to Cornwall. Our plans for going to Cornwall are not set in stone yet, but that's kind of the time off that I've blocked out ready to go once we know what Rich's work is doing. And she will be leaving, she's not here for very long at all, and she will be leaving before we come back. We are having a bit of an extended stay in Cornwall because it is Rich's dad's birthday at the beginning of the year, and it's a fairly significant birthday, so we are staying to celebrate with him. So it's highly likely that I am not going to see her, and I am really, really sad about that, because she is just the most lovely person in the world and I adore her. And yeah, she moved in August, so it's going to be really sad that I'm not going to see her now till potentially next August, unless I can get myself out to China, which is, you know, it is something I'm considering. So I really want to finish this so that I can give it to one of our friends who will be seeing her, and she will deliver this. It's also probably, I just want her to have it for Christmas. And then it's probably easy for her to kind of decide, actually, it's not going to fit in my suitcase, and leave it at her mum's. It'd be a lot more convenient for her. So I want to get this finished by about the 15th of December. 15th of December, which leaves me about 2 months. So that's 8 weeks. So that's about a month to do each repeat if I can finish this 6th repeat this week. I mean, now I'm saying that doesn't sound completely undoable, although I haven't factored in the border. But yeah, 2 months. I can finish this in 2 months, right? Right? I just desperately want her to have this, and I want her to have it when it's cold, and you know, when she might be a little bit sad going home after Christmas, after seeing her family and her friends, and I just want her to have something, you know, to remind her that we love her and we miss her and we're waiting for her to come back, and we will be right here. So yeah, that is really important to me. I might have a bit of a monogamous week on this, because it's important to me to wrap my friend up in something I've made so that she will feel loved and happy. My second whip is another Christmas present, and yes, basically all of my current On the Needles projects are for other people. So it will not shock you that I am kind of thinking about my knitting goals for next year. I'm thinking about my 2018 goals generally, and probably one of my knitting goals is to not knit for other people. because I have maybe another 2 things that I want to knit for other people this year. And yeah, I've had a really great year of knitting for other people, but I think next year might be the year of selfish knitting. That being said, I am loving working on this project. I don't care that this isn't for me. I have adored it. This is the Colour Affection by Vera Valimaki, and I have knit this out of custom dyed stranded dye works. As I've said before, Amy is no longer offering custom dyes. I got this a couple of years ago to knit the Lily Pilly for myself, and it's now become the Cornish Affection. It's, in my mind, mimicking a Cornish beach on a sunny day. And this is for my mum for Christmas. Now, my mum tells me that her partner watches this podcast. So Eddie, if you are watching, don't tell her. Don't tell her I'm making her anything for Christmas. But this is in her merino cashmere nylon base. It is beautiful and soft and luscious, and I have torn through this pattern, and I would absolutely make this again. I am considering using my Find Your Fade skeins to make myself a Colour Affection. Now, Amy has knit, it's like the Amy name drop podcast this week. Amy has also knit a Colour Affection, and she did tell me that I should do the modifications, which is adding a yarn over at the beginning of each row, because it gets a little bit tight and curls. I completely forgot about this. I started doing great big swathes of it during meetings and just completely forgot about the modification. And I have noticed, it's not off the needles yet, so it's a bit bunched up and I can't tell how bad it is, but I have noticed that the edges are quite tight and they could have done with a yarn over. And were I to knit this again, I would absolutely do that modification. However, I don't think my mum is going to mind. She is very likely to wear it kind of like this and wrapped round. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. It doesn't upset me too much. I imagine that that kind of tightness will make the ends curl quite prettily. Famous last words. Watch how I'm going to be in tears in a couple of weeks when it's finished and it's bunched up and tiny. I hope not. I really do hope not. But I love this. I have enjoyed doing this so very much. I haven't done many short rows before. I did some short rows earlier in the year. I'm sure I remember talking about them. My hortensia had short rows in, and I feel that doing that and this project has really made me much better at short rowing, and I feel really confident with it now. But yeah, I love this. And as you can see, it is scrunched up massively on my needles. There you go. I don't know what you can see. But rest assured, it is beautiful. And the yarn is just, it's just so beautiful and lovely. And it's so soft, and the garter stitch has such a squish to it. So yeah, I think my mum is going to love this. I'm thinking that I will give her some Lush goodies as well for Christmas. So I'm going to try and theme them with a bit of a beachy theme, because I know there's a big blue bath bomb that is, you know, kind of the smells of the ocean, like there's lots of sea salt in it and things like that. So I might try and theme the whole thing. So yeah, that's it for works in progress this week. There is something else I would like to mention, because it is a work in progress. For those of you who don't know, I am doing Vlogtober, and I am making a video every day and uploading it. I mentioned this to Katie of Inside Number 23, and she gave me the very good tip to start the day before Vlogtober. So kind of everything I put up at 10:30 every morning is what I did yesterday, and I have found that has taken the pressure off massively. And I'm mentioning it here because I didn't think I could do this, and I have just uploaded, day 8 has just gone live as we are filming now, and I just filmed a little bit for day 9. So I feel amazing. I am so proud of myself that I have managed to do this. And I'm really hoping that with the craziness of next weekend moving, that I'm still going to be able to get some videos up. I am thinking that I might have to do a double upload and miss a day, just because, you know, I might be too tired when we've moved to actually do any editing. But yeah, it is definitely a work in progress. It's something I'm working on and really enjoying, actually. I thought it would be more stressful than it has been, touch wood. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I had to share this with you. This is A Stash of One's Own by Clara Parks. I picked this up yesterday. I met Katie and Amy for a day together, and obviously we went to Loop, and then we went to a pub and just hung out and knit. And I wasn't going to buy anything, but Katie pointed out that they had this in stock. The reason that I had to get this, apart from the fact that it's Clara Parks and she is wonderful, is that I listened to one of the more recent episodes of Pomcast. I can't remember exactly which number, so I will put it in the show notes and I will link to it so that you can have a listen for yourself. And somebody at Pomfest, and I can't for the life of me remember who, and it's driving me mad, read one of the essays from here. I've just realised I've got the book with me so I can actually check which reading it was. But it is A Stash of One's Own, Yarn as a Feminist issue by Debbie Stoller. And it was incredible. And I was listening to this at work while I was working. I was just listening. And I had so many moments where I was going, yes, I totally agree. This, absolutely this. And I knew I had to buy this book. And normally I try to keep my book buying to Kindle only, just for space, but this is so beautiful, I absolutely had to have it. I would highly recommend you go and listen to that Pomcast episode to see if it's something you would like, and as soon as I have read this, I will definitely be sharing it with you, because if that final essay is anything to go by, this is going to be an incredible read. It's also just a beautiful thing to have. It's got this gorgeous dust jacket with the little bookshelf full of stash and these little ladies all knitting away. Even inside the dust jacket is gorgeous. The edges of the pages have that kind of slight roughness, and it's just a beautiful thing, and I'm incredibly glad to own it. And if I am ever anywhere where any of these incredible essayists are, I am going to have to take it and ask them to sign it. Maybe I'll make that a bit of a quest to get all these knitters to sign my A Stash of One's Own anthology. But yeah, I highly recommend you pick that up. I haven't even read it yet and I'm already in love. I've just had a quick skim through. So yeah, I will let you know what that is like once I've read it all. Next up is the giveaway. Now, I know you've been champing at the bit for this because I did kind of tease it at the top of the episode, but my podcast is one, and to celebrate I wanted to share that with you. So I have 3 prizes to give away. I have, first of all, the lovely Ellie of Skein Deer Knits has shared her Selboom Mitten Club with me, and one lucky winner will have the chance to win the Mitten Club. So that's prize number 1. Prize number 2, I did show off on the last episode. I have left it in the plastic because, as I said, we're moving. I want to keep it as safe and clean, as damage-free as possible. So I do apologise for any glare. But this is a beautiful bag and stitch marker set from a single strand. The third prize I received just this week from Spool Stories. I will link to it in the show notes because the bags are stunning. They are so beautiful. This one has this beautiful kind of quilted designed fabric with all these roses. I love the blue and the pinks. It's got a leatherette bottom, so it's really good if you go to knit nights at a coffee shop or anything like that. You know your project inside is going to be protected. It's beautifully lined with a calico fabric, and it has a beautiful little pocket inside made of the same quilted material, and a little lavender sachet in there, so it's going to keep the moths away as well. Marilisa of Spool Stories, I'm struggling with that, there's too many S's for me. Marilisa of Spool Stories also sent me a beautiful project bag, and this is gorgeous. I don't know why, but it reminds me of Christmas. It's not very Christmassy colours, but for some reason I looked at it and was like, this is going to be my Christmas project bag. This one is a drawstring and also has a nice plain lining and a little pocket and another little lavender sachet. But that one is all for me. So there you go, guys. You have the chance to win one of 2 stunning project bags or a mitten kit from the gorgeous Skein Deer Knits. So there are 3 prizes up for grabs. I will open a thread in the forum, and there I would like you to share what is your favourite thing about Tea and Possibilities. This is really useful to me, apart from anything else, because if I see a theme and I know, oh, I should be doing more of that, that's really useful to know. So yeah, go to the giveaway thread. Let me know what you like best, what you enjoy most about this channel, this podcast, and you could win one of 3 fabulous prizes. Apart from anything else, I want to say a massive thank you. I say thank you at the beginning of every episode because I appreciate so much the fact that you check out this podcast for the first time. You come back week after week. You've been here from day one a year ago. I cannot express to you what that means to me. I really appreciate that you take time out of your busy day to spend with me, and I can't thank you enough for that. So I hope this little giveaway helps to express my appreciation. Now, as I am moving next weekend, there will not be a podcast. I have gone to a more every other week schedule anyway at the moment, just to make everything a little bit more easy for me. So there's definitely no podcast next week, which means you have until Saturday, the 21st of October to enter this giveaway. I will be closing it on the 21st. So that I can use random number generator to pick a winner, and I will then record and let you know on the next episode. So please do take part in this giveaway. You've got to be in it to win it, and do keep an eye out for episode 36 after the 21st of October when I will be announcing the winners. But now it's time to move on to hear the spoilers. A while ago that I wanted to start sharing my top 3s with you. Top 3 is one of my favourite things of the podcast. I really enjoy it. It gets me thinking about what my favourite things are, and I thought it would be a really good opportunity to share with you my favourite books, my favourite films, my favourite TV shows. So yeah, we're going to kick it off with my top 3 books. First up is The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley. I read this in my teens, and it's a fairly chunky book, and it is about the legends of King Arthur. Now, fair warning, I am a massive King Arthur nut. I absolutely love King Arthur. It was something I was obsessed with as a kid. I think I watched Dragonheart like 100 times, and I memorised the Knight's Code from that because it was such an Arthurian thing. And I read everything I could get my hands on. I still have the cloth-bound, Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table that my mum got me. I love The Sword in the Stone. I've watched every episode of Merlin, and I'm planning a big rewatch this Christmas. And I recently went, I say recently, I think it was last year, I went to a fantastic reading at the Globe in the new Sam Wanamaker Playhouse, where Simon Armitage, who has recently translated some of the early tales of King Arthur into more modern poetry, read The Death of Arthur. And it was just beautiful. So yeah, you can tell I love King Arthur. I love Arthurian legend. One of my favourite things. And I believe The Mists of Avalon to be the most comprehensive modern retelling of King Arthur and his knights that I personally have come across. I'm not going to say of all time because I obviously haven't read everything. I've tried, and if you have any recommendations, please do let me know because they might be something I haven't read yet. But The Mists of Avalon particularly has a very feminist retelling of the Arthurian legend, and it's through the eyes of Morgane, who was Arthur's elder half-sister, and it's just stunning. She goes away to become a priestess on the Isle of Avalon and is fighting against the Roman Christian rule that is coming in to England at that time, and she tries to use her influence with Arthur to combat that, to kind of continue the love and the respect in the Isle for the goddess over the god. So there's a lot of really intense religious discussion in it. It's in no way boring for that. It makes it sound like this really philosophical book, but it's very much about the love of God and the goddess, the love of your family, the love of the people you fall in love with, and the way in which that can affect your future. And so many of these characters, because of the time it's set in, have an incredibly strong faith, either with the older pagan faith or with the newer Christian faith. And that tears families apart, it creates these uneasy alliances, it puts all this pressure on Arthur, who just wants to be a good king for his people, but he doesn't know whether he should be a pagan king or a Christian king. And it's incredible. It is just wonderful. And because the Arthurian legends are so old now, there is a lot of kind of overlap, you know, in some tellings. Morgan Le Fay, who is Morgaine in this book, is not his sister. She's his lover, his greatest nemesis, his one true love. She's many, many different things. And in this book, Marion Zimmer Bradley brings all those things together and makes sense of it. There's a lot of other peripheral stories that are very vague in other retellings, and they are all brought together into this rich, beautiful story. And it's just wonderful. It is not a historical document at all, but I think it probably captures the mood of change very, very well. And I would highly recommend it. It's one that I've read several times since I first read it in my teens, and I love it every single time. My second choice would be Captain Corelli's Mandolin by Louis de Bernières. I haven't read any of Louis de Bernières' other books because I loved Captain Corelli so much, and I'm kind of worried that the others won't live up to it. It is glorious. It is set during the Second World War on the island of Kefalonia. And you probably are aware of the story because they made it into a Hollywood blockbuster with Nicolas Cage. Awful adaptation. Fun film, I guess, but terrible adaptation of this fantastic book. Captain Corelli, as part of the invading Italian army, lands on Kefalonia, and it's about, at its heart, the way the Italians built relationships with the people of the island. And it encompasses so much more than that. There are whole chapters with Mussolini. There is a chapter with you know, the goat herd who lives up on the mountains. It's all of these stories coming together to create this one big story. And the ending is one of the most beautifully tragic but hopeful endings I have ever read. And the film does it no service whatsoever. So absolutely read it. My final choice is Shantaram by Gregory David Roberts, and I've mentioned before that this is one of my favourite books of all time. I've said before why. It is about a guy who escapes from jail in Australia and lands up in India, and about the relationships he builds with the people who live there, the gang that he falls in with, the terrible things he does, the woman he falls in love with, and it's a big story. The kind of theme of my top 3 books of all time is that it's a big story and it's not just one simple plot. A lot of other things are drawn in, so you get this beautiful baggy quilt of a story. Shantaram is not something I can talk too much about without giving too much away, so I would absolutely just recommend that you read it. It's incredible. It's incredibly dark in places, it's quite graphic and gory in others. But ultimately, all of these stories have a kernel of hope, and despite the terrible things that happen in all of them, and in many ways the unhappy or tragic endings, there is this spark, and you know that in the world after that final page, life will go on and it might actually be beautiful. So yeah, those are my top 3 books. I think I might open up a thread on the Ravelry group so that we can talk about your top 3 books. I would love to hear about them. I would love to hear any recommendations that you have, and they will go on my Kindle wish list, which is incredibly long, but that's how I like it. Now let's move on to Knit and Natter. It is going to be a very quick Knit and Natter today because I am very aware that we have cinema tickets to see the new Blade Runner film, and I'm running late a little bit. I wanted to talk today about Vlogtober and why I'm doing it. I decided to do Vlogtober because I wanted to celebrate my channel turning 1, and I wanted to learn more about editing, about filming, about having a really quick turnaround. And something that I haven't mentioned in my Vlogtober why video was that I wanted to get a little bit more comfortable with my own face. I'm 30 and my quest is always to love myself as much as possible. And on the podcast, I put my best face forward. I put on makeup, I put on lipstick, I didn't put any lipstick on today because the cold weather has made my lips very chapped. You know, I try to do my hair as nicely as possible. You know, I do all these things so that I can present the most attractive face that I can for the podcast. And I do this for a couple of reasons. The first being that, you know, I try to create a professional atmosphere when I'm filming so that it looks good when it's finished. And because when I started out, there was absolutely no way on earth I was going on camera with no makeup on. It just wasn't going to happen. However, I have now reached a point a year later where I'm doing whole vlogs with my hair shoved up in a ponytail, no makeup on and my glasses on. That is not something that I would have done before, and it's an opportunity for me to revel in that new confidence. That's not to say I'm going to start doing the podcast that way, because I feel that the podcast is a bit of a different animal, but I do feel that it's really fantastic to be 30 years old and happy to be presenting a makeup-free, unairbrushed, unedited view of myself to the world, because that's kind of not what you're supposed to do as a woman. You're supposed to always look as good as you possibly can and always look pretty and attractive. And we don't always look like that. When I wake up in the morning, you know, if it's a bad day and I've got a spot and my hair's a mess and, you know, sometimes you just don't look perfect, and that is okay. And I just want to celebrate the fact that I now have the confidence to do that, because it is hard won. And I will admit that when I'm editing it, sometimes I think, oh God, can I really put this out there? And I do, and I make myself do it, because that is how I have gained this confidence. Putting myself out there on a podcast has helped me massively. So yeah, I am just sharing that with you in the hopes that you will feel similarly, because I think that loving yourself regardless is incredibly important. And I have found a way that I have become much more comfortable with what I look like and what I sound like and the way I am. And that's amazing, and it should be celebrated. And I hope that you can find that too, because it's important. It is a woman in her power and is to be celebrated. That's it for this week. I am very aware that Richard's waiting for me to go and watch Blade Runner, and I should be leaving now-ish. So I wish you a very lovely couple of weeks, and when I see you again, I will be in a very different environment indeed. So take care, wish me luck, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye! I can't stop drinking this tea. This is amazing, and I was so prepared for it to be terrible. So prepared.